Hello, everybody, and welcome to Functional Medicine with me, Dr. Howard Robbins. And for those of you that didn't hear the introduction that I get on Voice America, uh, uh, this show is dedicated because, and I'm saying this because I film myself here um, to put it up on my YouTube channel, Medicine with Dr. Robbins. Um, the show is dedicated to talking about all the newest and latest and most important ways to treat and fix serious medical problems, either infectious diseases and conditions that may kill you, or um, diseases and conditions that may not kill you, but will make you wish you were dead, which is one of the ones that we are going to be predominantly talking about today, chronic fatigue syndrome, and what that all means. Um, before I get into this, I was just thinking about it before the show, how if those of you that are watching, I'm sitting here at my computer and I don't have a stethoscope around my neck. Every time I see pictures of doctors, they always want to wear a stethoscope around their neck as if they actually leave it there and walk around with that all the time. And in fact, most of the doctors that I know that have pictures of themselves with it probably don't lift a stethoscope up more than once in a week or a month or a year. It's sort of like a symbol that you're a doctor, which is kind of interesting. um, but in any case, those of you that are watching, I am in my white coat, my consultation coat, but I do not have a stethoscope around my neck. Okay. In any case, let's get to the show. Excuse me. First, I have to thank our sponsors. That's what helps bring us here. Doctor's Biome is one of our sponsors, as is PromoLife. I always start with PromoLife at promolife.com, PROMOLIFE.com. And for those of you that have chronic fatigue, you may want to get a pen and paper out. Um, Many of my shows, you probably would get best getting a pen and paper out because you may want to write some stuff down. Um, and if you're listening to it live, you won't get that chance. And if you're not listening to it live, you're just going to have to back it up and listen again. And this saves you trouble. So get that pen and paper ready because you may want to write stuff down. You're going to be learning about ozone and how it helps eliminate chronic fatigue syndrome and coughing. And, uh, and it's something you can do, some of which you can do at home. And the way to do that is by contacting PromoLife and tell them you heard about it here on my show, Functional Medicine with Dr. Robbins. Just say you heard it on Dr. Howard, Dr. Robbins sent you. And tell them you want to get set up for home care ozone therapy. And you'll learn more about what I mean by home care ozone therapy when we get to that a little bit later in the show, talking about how to fix chronic fatigue syndrome. Then um, they'll give you something special. They'll do something wonderful for you. What you do is go online to promolife.com. Look at all their different ozone products that they sell for home care, their ozone generators in particular. And you're probably going to want to get their elite model, not the elite plus for what we need to do, but their elite model. And make sure you tell them that you heard about it. And then the next thing is to call them. And you call them at 888-742-3404. 888-742-3404. And you tell them you heard about it here on the show, and they'll do something wonderful for you, percent off, or maybe they'll give you a regulator for free or at a discount or whatever it is you need. Okay. Also, you're going to want to get set up with, and you're going to need a small oxygen tank to work with the generator. And remember what I'm saying. You need to get a commercial oxygen tank, not a medical oxygen tank. Even though you're going to want to get 99% pure oxygen put into the tank. No such thing as 100%. 99%. And the reason for the commercial tank is it's easy to get it refilled. Okay. You may not need a doctor's prescription then to get it refilled. Um, it looks like it has threads on the outside where the regulator goes near the little dial that turns it on, that you could screw a garden hose on. Okay. That's the kind of threads you want. That's what we get in commercial tanks and in all the big tanks we use in medical offices. All right. The medical oxygen tanks are, you're going to need a prescription from a doctor, which isn't going to be easy to get. So don't waste your time that way. Call them at 888-742-3404. Okay. And tell them you want to get set up for ozone therapy home care. And we'll talk about that later. The rest of you and virtually everybody is going to need to repair your gut. And that's what Doctor's Biome does. Doctor's Biome, for those of you that are first-time listeners, it's a very, very important and special probiotic beverage. All 15 patented strains are created to survive the stomach over 90%. And whether you know it or not, if you've listened to shows that I've done, then you would know. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't. Virtually almost all, if not all, capsule, powder, and tablet probiotics are destroyed over 90% in your stomach if they do come out of suspended animation, because they're not living. Okay, they've been freeze dried into that and put into that powdered state, hoping that when you hydrate them with water, they will come back to life, which they do not. Most of them are dead as doornails, as the expression goes. Doctor's Biome, they're all alive because they're living and growing in number every day in a 100% organic mint, kale, lettuce, cucumber, celery, apple, lemon juice. So it's delicious. And what's important about it, in addition to the fact that it's alive when you take it, that yes, they survive the stomach because they're called next generation probiotics. So they survive the stomach acids as well, even though, and they're living, but then they can stick to the wall of the gut because they're called smart probiotics. If you take next generation smart bacteria and freeze dry them put them into a capsule or compress them with other stuff into a tablet or just leave them in the powdered state, they're not necessarily going to come back to life and be strong, powerful bacteria. That's it. They're asleep and or dead. So what you're getting in Doctor's Biome is a product that actually works. And bacteria will stick to the wall of the gut, as you're going to learn how important it is to get yeast in balance again, and then repair your gut wall, help repair in your gut wall so you can absorb all those nutrients that you're taking that haven't been helping. And now you're going to understand why and what you can do all about it, okay, from this show. All right. So we spent enough time on that, but it's important that you know that because it's part of how you're going to get over chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, chronic fatigue syndrome is very common. Over 3 million people here in the USA have it. Unfortunately, if you do the research, it's estimated that 9 out of 10 people with it have not even been diagnosed by a doctor with it. So that's going to knock that over 3 million number into way higher. Okay. Way, way, way higher. And People have varying degrees of it, so you don't realize that's what you've got, so you don't even know. It's estimated by various groups that over 30 million people worldwide have it. I say they're wrong. It's a very low number. If you want to knock that number up to perhaps 100 million, I think you'd be getting more accurate. Here in the US, I would say more like not a little more than 3 million, but I would say more like 30 million people suffer from it. And I say suffer from it, have it, you may not even be suffering yet. Okay, because the symptoms may not be all that bad. Your immune system may be fighting it, so you don't even realize it yet. All right, but it's that common. Um, Center for Disease Control. Um, this gives you an idea of how they don't know what's going on, but they try to come up with estimates based on studies that are done. As much as 50, they go 18 billion. Some studies show as much as $50 billion is spent annually here in medical costs and lost income because of CFIRS, chronic fatigue syndrome. CFIRS is sort of a shortened version of the name. One of the reasons it's hard to diagnose, and that's because they don't know what. If you read the literature, you go online, you go to John Hopkins, you go to the Mayo Clinic, you go to WebMD, you go anywhere you want to go to learn about it, you're going to find out they don't know what causes it. They've decided that there must be a specific cause. This is the way they think. Unfortunately, a lot of doctors today and people, because doctors are nothing but people, but the way their mind works is something must be caused by this or it must be caused by that, perhaps. Otherwise, they can't imagine that this can be causing it, that can be causing it. Another thing, they can't imagine that it can be a conglomerate of things that are causing it. It has to be a this or a that. And then if they're able to say, well, it is this or it is that, then they don't call it chronic fatigue. Because here's the thing, chronic fatigue syndrome, as it's called, or chronic fatigue, is a symptom. It's just a symptom. It is not the disease entity of its own, or in this case, call it a condition. It's just a symptom. And because they're not looking necessarily at the other things that have chronic fatigue as one of its symptoms, they don't understand that what might be the cause. And that's what you're going to start to understand from this show. Okay. You can basically get it at just about any age. People with and it has another name. Okay. It's also called myalgic encephalopathy. Okay. Myalgic encephalomyelitis. Okay. Myalgic encephalomyelitis. Basically, they say your brain's inflamed. Okay. And they're absolutely right. But they don't understand what's causing that to happen. And the symptom, one of the symptoms of it is that. Now, is that fatigue. If you've got it, you know what we're talking about. You're having trouble functioning in life. You know something is really, really wrong. You're not able to do your normal daily job, your tasks at home and things like that. Even just washing up and getting dressed and cooking a meal can be difficult. I remember, and I'll talk about, in fact, I'll mention one of the patients right now. I remember this one girl, 35 years old, been suffering from it for several years. She finally learns that ozone can help. She comes in and she cried every single day she came in for the first month. until she started to notice some energy come back. And as she started to get the energy back, she stopped with all the tears. But I still remember her and several others give a story like this. Dr. Robbins, I went to sleep last night at 9:30. I woke up at 9:30 in the morning. That's 12 hours. And I was so exhausted, it took me an hour to get out of bed. After getting out of bed, it took me almost an hour and a half to get washed and get dressed. I was so tired, I just couldn't do it. At that point, I was so exhausted, I had to go back to bed. That's why I didn't come in for my treatment yesterday. Chronic fatigue syndrome. You're not able to walk, you're not able to function. And we're going to talk about many more of the other symptoms that you can get from it. And it affects anybody. It can affect kids, teens, elderly people. It seems that more women get it than men, but I don't know. There's more women than men out there, and that's why you see the numbers that way. Um, um, uh, but one way or another, it's just so intense that you're just not able to do anything when it gets that bad. The problem is, a lot of you who are listening to this show may not be that bad yet or have a loved one that's that bad yet. It may be mild in terms of the fatigue, but wait till you hear all the other symptoms that you could be suffering from with it. And that's what we're going to do when we come back from our first commercial break. What we're going to do is I'm going to go over all the different things that you're going to get a checklist. And you don't have to have them all, just have to have some. And if you have some of these, then we're going to go into what causes them. And then, of course, we're going to be going into how to fix it all. So, yes, it's just to, briefly say, it's rare that people under the age of 10 get it. It seems to happen based on statistics over the age of 10. So young children, 13, 15, 18, and young adults seem to get it, but it's a little bit less common unless you get certain infections, as you're going to learn. But it's not a disorder of aging. That's pretty clear, okay? So aging isn't the cause of myalgic encephalitis, chronic fatigue syndrome. Let's go to our first break. When we come back, I'm going to go over the symptoms, so get ready to write them down. And this way you'll know whether or not you qualify for what we're talking about. Everybody, stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We're back again from our first break. For those of you that are watching this on YouTube, you probably don't even know there's a difference, except maybe there was a stop in what I'm saying for a minute. So let's go over the kinds of things that people will feel, and now you're going to learn why it's so ultimately it's so confounding to doctors. Okay, there's a lot of I don't know why they gave it the name orthostatic intolerance, but I don't even know what that means. But let's talk about it. First of all, brain fog, brain cloudiness. You're not able to think clearly. You know things are off. Now remember, you don't have to have all these things, and it doesn't matter how severe it is. Some days you may be better than other days. That's not unusual. It could be very severe every day, or only never severe at all. You may have days where everything seems normal again for a period of time, with all the things that I'm saying. So if you have a problem once in a month, it's not that big. You shouldn't be concerned. If you have any of the things that I'm saying, even in a small way, doesn't have to be severe, even every other week for one day, this is what you've got. Okay. And here, the bad news is it's only going to get worse. I wish I were wrong. This is one of those things where I could be wrong, but I know I'm not. Okay, I don't think so. And the good news is we have an answer for it. I don't mean a maybe answer. I mean 99% answer. Nothing is 100%. And no moral and ethical doctor should ever promise or guarantee a result, even if you're successful 99% of the time. You never know what's going to happen on the next one after 10,000 successes. You never know what's going to happen on 10,001 for some reason. But having said that, if you follow the therapy advice that we're going to give with the right people doing the right thing, you should get your life back again. So, brain fog, brain cloudiness, memory issues, particularly more short term than long term memory issues. Um, Focusing issues, staying focused, even just to listen to this show. Cognitive issues, understanding what's being said, coming up with words and stuff when you need it. Everybody may have a little of these, some of these kind of things once in a blue moon, but it shouldn't be all the time. Um, uh, um, Headaches. They don't have to be migraines, though some get them frequently, some get them once in a while. Could be a mild headache once every other week or so. Um, Sometimes a feeling of a tight band around your head. Remember, you don't have to have all these things, so stop getting it in your mind. Well, if I don't have that, it can't be. It's not the way it works. All you need to do is have a number of these things, and we're dealing with it. The most important thing is fatigue. Okay. You have to have fatigue. If you don't have fatigue, we're not dealing with the level of chronic fatigue syndrome that we're talking about here. And therefore, if you have that level of fatigue where uh, you wake up after a night's sleep and you don't feel well rested, um, um, if you and your symptoms of fatigue don't improve when you rest during the day, um, you may get very fatigued after you exert yourself. You shouldn't have to go to the gym and then be so exhausted you have to lay down and go to sleep. That's not normal. Okay. That's not normal. Okay. In fact, sleeping problems are very common with this. Difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, along with not feeling better after you did. Uh, Sore throat. You may have had a sore throat. It doesn't have to be chronic and you keep getting it back again and again. In fact, it may have begun with a sore throat and swollen lymph nodes and feeling malaise and feeling off. Okay. Dizziness. It can worsen if you're lying down and then, where you feel dizzy. And then when you sit up and stand, it may get worse. Not everybody gets all these symptoms and to the same degree. Um, Ringing in the ears, tinnitus, sinus congestion. Okay. Um, these are things that many of the doctors don't talk about. Muscle pain, fibromyalgia, where it could be generalized all over your body or certain muscles at times, joint pain. And the joints can shift. It doesn't have to be the same joints each and every single time. Um, let's see what else. Digestive problems. Okay. Heart palpitations. Sometimes you get rapid heartbeats. You might even get so rapid you may feel faint. You may even faint from time to time. Um, Heat intolerance, another common one. Not always, but it's there commonly. Um, Menses may be off. Urination may be a problem. Less common for those two things, but we do see it. Um, Digestive problems. Generally, almost everybody has digestive problems of one form or another. You're supposed to have a bowel movement every day, at least once, without exception. If you don't have a bowel movement every day without exception, there's something wrong going on in there. Okay. And patients go, oh, I go every day, but I use this or I use that. Well, that's important, but it means you still have a problem if you have to use something to help you defecate. Okay. Um, it's essential that you have, at least one bowel movement every single day. Um, you may have difficulty doing daily activities, just standing in line, shopping, uh, getting washed, dressed, particularly if it's hot outside or hot in your house. These things may become a real issue for you. You may have real problems with it. Um, Depression, anxiety, may have both, may have one or the other, and it could be from mild to severe. And I'm not talking about you're aggravated over your life or your job or what's going on. I'm talking about you just, there's no good reason for it. It just seems to come on to you from time to time. Uh, any or all of these things are the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay. Now, why do these symptoms vary so much? Because get ready, here is the list of things. And unfortunately, the problem with this list of things is testing. Testing, you go back 100 years ago, they didn't have any tests for most of these things. Doctor would um, hear your complaints, give you an examination, and based on his or her experience, come up with a diagnosis. And we used to call it a differential diagnosis. That meant it could be this, 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 and you list all the possibilities. And based on your clinical experience, you would know, well, this is what it most likely is, or that is what it most likely is. Again, doctor's way of thinking was it was this or that, rather than this and that and that and this. It could be multiple things affecting one person. Today, for doctors to get paid, mostly when we're dealing with insurance, they have to have a diagnosis that's backed up by some sort of a test. If they can't back it up with a test, then they can't make the diagnosis because they're subjecting themselves to a lawsuit from you treated me for this problem for this, but I don't, what's your proof that I had this? Um, the second thing is getting paid by an insurance company, which absolutely doesn't want to have to pay anything to any doctor. Um, uh, well, if you can't prove they have it, not going to pay you. So show me a test that proves it. If they're not, the next is the doctor may not be looking for it because they're just looking at your symptom of fatigue and some of these other symptoms, and they're not recognized. Well, you've got myalgic encephalitis, but we don't know what causes it, so we don't have a treatment for it. Go home and suffer. And in some cases, with some of the causes, you might even die. Now, some of the causes of chronic fatigue syndrome are diagnosable with a test. Okay. Hypothyroid, for example. Obviously, if you have a low thyroid, your metabolism is low. Fatigue is going to be one of the common things. There's other symptoms of hypothyroid as well. That one is more readily diagnosed, but they don't think of it as causing chronic fatigue syndrome. If you look up on the internet symptoms, and by the way, everybody has this. If you've taken an antibiotic once in your lifetime, so think about it. If you eat red meat or chicken that isn't organic or farm-raised fish, you're going to get uncooked out doses of antibiotics, whether you like it or not. Well, antibiotics tend to kill the good boys in your gut off almost instantly, apparently. as well as the bad boys that might be in your gut, the bad bacteria, not just the probiotics. That allows yeast to overgrow because it's bacteria, the healthy probiotic bacteria that are supposed to be residing in the wall of your gut is supposed to keep yeast in balance again. If you look up symptoms of candidiasis on the internet, yeast overgrowth, you're going to see all the things you may see, many, if not all, the things you're suffering from listed there, the symptoms I'm talking about. And everybody that I have ever seen has had antibiotics in one form or another at one time or another, so they qualify for candidiasis to one degree or another. Oh, and you've been taking probiotics that I explained earlier on why they don't work, and therefore, yes, you still probably have it. Okay. Then there's a group of viruses that are commonly cause chronic fatigue. Almost everybody in this country, not everybody, but many people for certain, have heard about the Epstein-Barr virus. When I was a kid, they called it the kissing virus. You got mononucleosis or mono. Uh, and it's a virus that's easily transmitted that way, but also by sharing food and drink with your friend in the gym or when you're hanging out with each other as teenagers. And that's why young kids don't generally get it under the age of 10. But once you're old enough to hang out with other people and share food and drink and touch the things that they were touching and putting it in your mouth, that's why people in their teenage years seem to get mono all the time. Well, not all the time, but I mean, they get it quite frequently and pass it on to one another. And often their immune system can recover and they can get back to school again. But the virus is not gone. Your immune system may have kicked it, particularly when you're younger. Your immune system hopefully is stronger. It may have kicked it into remission, and thus you can get back to school after some day, usually some weeks or even some months. Some kids miss out on an entire year, and some never recover from it. Another virus is cytomegalovirus, CMV. And we've done shows on this, and you can listen specifically to that. Okay. Cytomegalovirus, herpes 6. Now, EBV and CMV are herpes viruses, along with herpes 6. These are known to cause that fatigue reaction in the human body. So you can be tested for these viruses and show antibodies for it. Unfortunately, there are false negatives as much as false positives. So it's good to get double tested for it. Wait a few weeks, get tested again just to be certain. Hopefully, they will show up with IgG antibodies. Okay, IgG antibodies. IgM antibodies, immunoglobulin M antibodies, are only high if you're suffering. And then hopefully the immune system puts you into some form of remission and knocks them down. But the IgGs are supposed to be there forever if you suffer from these infections. Yes, I didn't give you the biggie yet, but yes, you can have nutritional deficiencies. If your gut isn't working correctly, even though you're taking all these wonderful supplements and eating only organic, healthy food, blah, 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 and all the rest, unfortunately, you may be suffering from nutritional deficiencies because your gut isn't healthy. You have yeast overgrowing. I explain why everybody qualifies with that. So you might have some nutritional deficiencies that are leading to this happening. Without all those other symptoms, you may have certain symptoms related to hormonal deficiencies, particularly that's why I say they see it in women more than men. Women, once they're going through menopause or even before menopause begins, may be suffering hormonal imbalances in their body. And one of the symptoms could be fatigue, generally not that severe, but it is one of the possibilities here. Um, if you've suffered some sort of physical or emotional trauma, some serious stress, um, this weakens the immune system and allows for these other things to come on. So it's often related to the injury or the emotional trauma, loss of a job or loss of a loved one. Okay. So that's another, trigger, so to speak, for these other things to come out. Lyme disease, that's the biggie. And that's what I'm mentioning before we go to our last break. And listen to my shows that I've done on these things specifically so you can learn more. But Lyme disease often goes for as much as 5 to 20 years undiagnosed because the testing is so poor. A positive test means you have it, but a negative test doesn't mean that you don't. So, bottom of it all is Lyme disease is a pandemic. Listen to my show, Lyme Disease, the Great Imposter Mimic Pandemic. It's both up on YouTube now as well as here on Voice America. And listen to that show. It'll explain everything about Lyme, and you're going to hear a lot of what you're hearing today as well. Everybody, stay with us. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about how to fix it. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. So hopefully you have your pen and paper ready so you can start to learn what to do to fix it. Okay. And it at this point, for the most part, most of the things I'm going to say, everybody would who have any of the different versions of it would benefit. Yeah, if you have hypothyroid, you can just, and that gets proven, they can give you thyroid medication. Most people with hypothyroid, while they have fatigue as an issue, and it could be pretty severe, they have other symptoms also of hypothyroid. Unusual weight gain, though a lot of everybody that has hypothyroid is overweight. But one way or another, with thyroid medications, you can hopefully fix the problem. And sometimes we fix that as well with everything I'm going to tell you. So, supplements are valuable in also boosting the immune system. Vitamin A, all the antioxidants, vitamin A, D, E, and with vitamin D3, you need to take K2. We've done shows on these things, so you should learn all about it. And you need to take supplements every day. Vitamin C, 1, 2, 3,000 milligrams, 5 or 6 times a day. Most everybody with these problems can take that much every couple of hours while you're awake. And we've done shows on vitamin C explaining why it's only in your body a couple of hours. You've used what you need and urinating the rest away. And that you shouldn't buy cheap versions of vitamin C because cheap C doesn't work well. Nothing cheap is good and nothing good is cheap for a reason. But vitamin C is essential. Why? Because vitamin C is necessary for to make energy in every cell of your body. The in every cell of your body, doesn't matter what kind of a cell it is, it has a little organelle, it's called mitochondria. And the mitochondria need nutrients and they need oxygen to make energy. Okay, we're not talking about cancer now where they're damaged. We're talking about in everybody else. So when the mitochondria are working and you have enough nutrient coming in, healthy nutrients coming in, and enough oxygen coming in through the Krebs cycle, they're able to create ATPs, adenosine triphosphates, the energy molecules that we need to stay alive, do their job, and make another one when they're ready to pass away and create a new cell. And that works for every cell of your body. And particularly, this is the difference between having enough energy or not having enough energy. So, of course, if you're not eating the right kind of a diet, if you're eating food that isn't well absorbed, if you're not putting enough nutrient into your blood, you're going to have a problem. Yes, Deep breathing exercises can add more oxygen into your blood, and that's wonderful and beneficial to do on a daily basis, particularly if you're feeling fatigue. 5 deep, relaxing breaths, very valuable. But should you really have to? And that the reason is you're only doing it as a method of treating the symptoms, okay, not to get rid of the problem. So it's only able to treat the symptoms of the problems, the infections actually that's causing all of this. Um, but beneficial and useful. Uh, Acupuncture, very beneficial and useful at times for this, as is chiropractic. Remember, you have to have the right nerve innervation to all your organs for all your systems to work correctly. So once a week, at least, unless you need it more, chiropractic is very valuable in chronic fatigue syndrome cases. Still not treating the cause, just treating and assisting in the treatment of all the symptoms. But anything that can help with the symptoms is valuable and can make a difference in the long run. So the key thing to understand is all the different causes, other than Lyme disease, which I think is one of the top causes of it, in which case you need antibiotics if you're going to go the traditional route. Unfortunately, they stop working, or they cause a host of other problems. They cause yeast to overgrow in your gut, which leads to the symptoms again. So antibiotics can be useful, but I'm not a proponent of them unless it's a dire situation. So the key and most important thing is intravenous ozone therapy. Now, for Lyme disease and most anything other than the viral causes of this. Oh, and I did leave one cause out. Oh, I'm sorry. Mold. Mold and mixed mold mycotoxicosis. We're published on it. We've done a show on it. Mold is another one of the causes of chronic fatigue syndrome. Intravenous ozone therapy, particularly the direct IV method, that's where we push oxygen and ozone gas directly into your vein. Our clinic has perfected it here in Manhattan. We've perfected it, and we've done over, as of the time I'm doing this show live, over 370,000 treatments over the last 29 of our 34 years. That will complete this month and next week, actually. And that's more than any one clinic in the world. And actually, we've done over 420,000 intravenous ozone therapies using the other methods of ozone as well. No one has our clinical experience. Well, in any case, it's the direct IV method that can kill the viruses. The other methods of ozone can still be beneficial, the blood methods of ozone, like hyperbaric high dose ozone with multipass, nicknamed 10 pass. Listen to my show called Intravenous Ozone Therapy, Everything You Need to Know. I go over all the different methods and why we use the ones that we use because they're so valuable and important. So the direct IV method, you need to do it at least 3 times a week. The other methods can be done once or twice. Well, MAH, wussy girly boy ozone therapy, you need to do that at least 3 times a week. May improve your condition, will not get rid of it, particularly if it's a virus. That's been our experience, unless it's a miracle, but might put it into remission, but then it'll flare up again. I'm talking about getting rid of it permanently, completely, once and for all. And that's where direct IV ozone comes in. And we've proven not only its benefits, but its safety. We know of no published work anywhere in the medical literature showing that anyone who has been treated by a licensed, trained healthcare professional with direct IV ozone has ever been harmed. Okay. Everybody gets well and goes back to their life and work if they want to. Those that use some of the other methods of ozone may or may not get the same results. Of course, EBU extracorporeal blood ozonation oxygenation, also called recirculatory hemoperfusion, and also AKA um, ozone blood dialysis, also has had beneficial effects on chronic fatigue syndrome, no doubt about it. So the 10-pass method, the direct, hyperbaric high dose ozone, the direct IV method, which is simple, easy, and less costly. Um, in our clinic, people can afford us. That's for one thing. That's very sure. It's worth traveling from around the world. This year, we've had patients from Saudi Arabia, from Milan, Italy, from London, from Amsterdam, from Bali, um, uh, just just to name some that have come in from around the world to get the care here in our Manhattan office. Uh, you need to do the therapy when at least 3 times a week, and that's not easy when you're in the depth of fatigue that CFIRS can cause. But you have to force yourself to come in. And if you do, you'll start to see eventually, as we get ahead of all these infections, because it works, intravenous ozone works on every virus, fungus, yeast, mold, bacteria, parasite, toxin, harmful free radical. It pretty much is going to cleanse, detoxify your entire body, boost your immune system. Everybody that has this problem needs to take doctor's biome. Even if you have normal, regular bowel movements every day without exception. We have to put the good boys back into the wall of the gut to get yeast in balance. Unfortunately, ozone can kill all the good boys off as much as it kills the bad boys off. So you have to put the good boy, just not instantly like antibiotics seem to do. So we have to put the good boys back into your gut. And that's where Doctor's Biome comes in. And I didn't give it to you before, but I'm going to give it to you now. If you go online and use the code radio20, you'll get a special discount off your first order. And then after that, go on auto ship and you'll get 10% off all the time on your orders, because it's not an inexpensive product. It's worth every penny, and you're going to be taking it possibly and hopefully for the rest of your life, not just temporarily. Being well hydrated, it's essential that you're drinking 3 or 4 liters, 3 or 4 quarts of, of, of healthy water every day. Healthy liquids, could be green juices and things like that, herbal teas, but it has to be healthy, not diuretics, things that contain caffeine in it. That's not healthy. Healthy liquids every day without exception, 3 to 4 liters, vitamin C 5 or 6 times a day, Doctor's Biome once a day. These are the essentials that you must do. That's 3 musts. Okay. And then you can add on all the other supplements and things, the B complex, things like that, that you might be deficient in, that may make a difference in helping overcome this problem. Eating organic raw food diet can be very positive in helping overcome this problem, because it puts healthy live energy, particularly if you're using sprouts. Oh my God, are sprouts a wonderful thing to be eating with this on a daily basis. There's so many different types of sprouts. All right. So intravenous ozone therapy, key, along with the rectal insufflation that you can do at home, an ozone enema, okay, and drinking ozonated water. These are the things that you can do at home, and that's why it pays to go to Promo Life and get set up for home care. For those of you that can't do IV ozone because it's anywhere near and you can't afford to travel, then call them at 888-742-3404, get set up for home care, and do rectal insufflation twice a day. Listen to our show on ozone home care. You may have to go back in episode directory. Listen to the show on ozone home care, and it'll tell you about how to do all of that. Also, you can contact me in my Manhattan office at 212-581-0101. That's 212-581-0101, and they'll put you on to me. Um, if you're from out of country, we can talk to you through WhatsApp. Okay. Not in the office necessarily, but after that, I can hook up with you through WhatsApp. Also, you can email me at Ozone Doctor, and I'll tell you how to get directly to me through my cell number. Ozone Doctor, OZONEDOCTOR, all spelled out one word, Ozone Doctor at yahoo.com, YAHOO, Ozone Doctor at yahoo.com. These are all the ways that you'll be able to get through to us. We'll be able to help you overcome this horrible infection. Please, you don't have to continue to suffer. I know it sounds wonderful that I'm giving you this amazing answer. It almost sounds too good to be true. I promise you it isn't. Everybody, stay with us. I hope you had healthy holidays. We're coming up to New Year's. I'll be on right after that, New Year's. So happy, healthy New Year to you. Stay well and have a nice one. Bye now.